Yeah, a few weeks ago we did a camp where it just had veterans come in.
I've actually been talking to Chris.
Chris Bickle.
Yeah, we're just talking. Just talked to him today.
So what's the deal with having veterans come in? Where did that spawn from?
So with Endure Studios, I started an artist project just called Endure, but it's a project I want to do where I want to go back to some of the places I've worked in different parts of the world, whether it be conflict zones or whatnot, that I've done other types of work in. I want to go back and actually record albums with people that have been affected by various conflicts. So, for me, originally that was me thinking about going and making a record in South Sudan with former child soldiers from the LRA.
Wow.
I was there. I was spending time with a guy named Sam Childers, who was there in Nimale, South Sudan. He was kind of fighting against the LRA, started an orphanage, and was basically his thing was he'd team up with some of the freedom fighters in southern Sudan, and he'd rescue kids from the LRA once they'd been taken into this militia group, and led by Joseph Kony, really horrendous, terrible organization. So Sam did some amazing work getting kids out, and I got time with him there. In fact, really, I started talking to him. I wanted to just work with him, go fight with him out of college when I graduated. But I got over and was doing some stuff with him in Nimale, South Sudan. Yeah, I started writing these songs just inspired by some of these kids' experiences, right? And then I came back to Nashville at the time, which is where I was based. And
what year was that?
That'd be maybe 2011.
I was going to say 10 or something. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think it was maybe 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, the end of the world in the Miami. Yeah, that's when we went.
Because the first, one of the first things that we did together was Endure Studios Lebanon.
Yeah.
Where you went to write songs with Syrian refugees.
Yeah.
And there was one song that I co-produced and sang on, I believe.
I didn't. I'd done a job. I'd been in Lebanon several years before that trip, and I was doing some kind of informal EP work, executive protection work. But I met a lot of people in the Syrian refugee community that really kind of blew me away. One, with their resilience, and two, just these people that have been through more than we can really imagine going through in our hometown, right? And just getting uprooted, family members killed. It just, they had to leave everything.
For anyone wondering, Lebanon is like real close to Tennessee here. There's a Lebanon, Tennessee.
It's definitely the one in Tennessee. not the one in the Middle East, not that one. But so I met some great people in that community. And one of the days we were walking through, the guy I was working with had a meeting with a guy that had a studio there, a little studio, and they would do mostly like voiceover work and stuff like that, transcriptions. But I remember that moment I had that idea. It's like, I want to come back here at some point and make a record. And that I really hit a crossroads. When I came back from that trip, I remember I was pacing in the airport in Houston, the Houston airport, and I was just trying to think like, okay, I'm either going to This is the moment I decide career trajectory wise, whether I pursue a career in special forces or whether I try to start my own thing in music and start my own studio. And I thought about it, because if I was going to jump in, I've been training for buds and some of the stuff that would go into that with the SEALs and swimming and everything. And so when I decided to go the music route and build a studio, I thought of it as like, okay, well, buds, various segments of it. But I was thinking, okay, I'm going to take 18 months and the rest of the world's dead to me. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to learn how to produce. I'd produced a little bit before, but I'd really been like a top line songwriter, right? I was a songwriter that would go and work with different artists, work with different producers and write songs for their records. And so I was like, I've got to learn how to produce, and I'm going to just give it everything I got. So fast forward a few years and I went back to Lebanon, and I Yeah, I made a record with Syrian refugees, which is pretty incredible. One Iraqi refugee as well, and but that record we did in.
Can we get links to that to put in the show notes?
Sure. Yeah, it was an incredible record, man. Worked, some of the songs it's part of it's in Arabic, part of it's in Kurdish, both Syrian Kurdish and Iraqi Kurdish. Part of it's in English. We've got artists from Lebanon, Iraq. Well, actually, really just Syria and Iraq. Singing,
the one that
singing
I sang
alongside, artists from the U.S.
May
the one
I
that
do a little splash?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Would you like some?
the one that I sang on had what was her name?
Sozda.
Sozda, yeah.
Man, Sozda. So there was this girl, incredible girl, man. She lost her mom in the war in Syria, moved down, was just kind of by herself in Lebanon as a refugee. Her early 20s. And she took she heard about what we were doing. Because some of, friends of hers had started working with me in Beirut on this record, and they started messaging her. She took a bus in to get to Beirut, like a half-day bus ride to get in. I started working with her, man. Just a gorgeous voice.
Yeah.
Like, incredible voice.
Yeah.
We did this thing where we kind of wrote the song, and then I just I felt like she had something to say, and I didn't really speak. I can't speak Arabic that well. I can speak enough to sort of get by in the streets, but I can't have like a detailed conversation, right? And so I just started playing this track and left it wide open, just a pad in a key with a drum beat. So there's nothing that would kind of dictate where she'd go melodically, man. And she just went off. Yeah, she sang about Afrin.
That's on the record.
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, we took
what's the name of the song?
That one's called Ishamen. Isamen, and I'm probably still pronouncing it horribly wrong.
You're fine.
But Isamen, and so we did that. I used a lot of the audio from that, and then had her come back in, and we worked on actually building a song around essentially what she just started improvising. But yeah, man, that record was incredible. And so, long story short, I made that record in 2019. We put it out in 2020, and filmmaker Jake Green,
I met Jake. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. You met Jake too.
One of our ANCAP homies. Yeah.
What do you mean by our white man?
What is my race?
Oh, is in the ANCAP, the ANCAP world? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He was trying to do a documentary on ANCAPism as well. Whatever. So.
Yeah. He's part of the libertarian
Mises
party
Caucus.
movement. Yeah, the Mises Caucus down in Georgia.
He has the same sticker on his suitcase that I have out on my car.
Yeah. Yeah, but man, Jake's awesome, and he came and shot video, did a documentary of the whole process of making the record. But the coolest thing is he would get these backstories. He'd do these interviews with the translator with the refugees that I worked with, so they could tell their story. And then he had an animator come in that would animate their backstory a little bit, because obviously we didn't have footage from Syria in the war.
You got to see this documentary.
Yeah, word. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name of the documentary?
It's just called Endure Lebanon.
Endure Lebanon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then the next project I was going to do in that series, right? This kind of Endure series where I go to different conflict zones and make records of people that have been affected by that conflict. The next one I was going to go back to East Africa and work on this project with former child soldiers. And then COVID hit, and East Africa was on tight lockdowns, man. They made even some of the lockdowns we had in Los Angeles look tame.
Wow.
And so I postponed doing that, and then I had been working with this former Army Ranger named Rocco Vargas, who's an actor. He's in the show Mayans.
The Sons of Anarchy spinoff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I started working with him, and man, it was awesome. I love the experience working with him. He'd shoot me poems that he'd been writing, like when he'd be deployed overseas, or when he'd be, then he came back, was working with Border Patrol. He's just had a really eclectic life experience, right? Baseball player, but he would just write poetry, sort of as an outlet. So he'd send me these poems, and I'd read through them and go through them, and then I'd kind of find one that would inspire me. I'd write a song kind of based on that poem. I'd shoot the idea back to him, kind of make a track, sing a guy, and then we'd start writing the song back and forth from there. Just sending things back and forth. And so I got the idea when I couldn't go back to South Sudan to make this record yet. I was like, I think the next one I'll just do domestically, and I'll do it with the veteran community. So yeah, I'll be doing this record with. In fact, actually, technically, the first single in that comes out Friday.
Is that the one that Casey worked on?
No,
we didn't.
No.
We didn't finish that one yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did a camp. Maybe a month ago, about
Something
3
like
weeks ago, with veterans here in Nashville. This is a song I wrote with Rocco a little while ago, and then we got another another former Army Ranger. Goes by the artist named Tyler Hates Life as a rapper down in Georgia, and he we got Rocco talked to him. We got him to rap on this song, and so yeah, it's going to be really a triple release. Going to be Rocco, Vargas, Tyler Hates Life, and Endure, and then this will be essentially kind of the lead single and from this album.
Hell
with
yeah.
Endure veterans. Yeah.
I heard the one that you handed off to Casey, and I was really surprised because when you think like, oh, we're gonna bring these veterans in and they're gonna make some music, all real adorable and everything. They probably have no musical experience. That dude's voice killed.
He's great voice.
In case you didn't tune him, right? Or did you tune him?
Oh God, no.
Okay, yeah, he didn't tune him. He sounded really good.
Yeah, no, Brooks, he's coming in tomorrow. Brooks Herring, he's great, man, and he's going
tomorrow?
after it. Yeah.
Oh, great.
And he's going after. I mean, he's pursuing it full time.
I think that's awesome
job,
that you give. Like
he's a professional singer. Like he's a seasoned professional musician too.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
he plays on Broadway all like a few times a week, I think.
Yeah, I mean he works as like a physical therapist, and because he's gotten out of the military, he's working as a physical therapist on the side, and he's looking to just shift into full time music. But he's great.
He's
man.
very good. Yeah,
his
guy
voice
too.
Amazing. Yeah, great guy. He's got so much to say as a person, which. To me,
he's smart.
Still, the key of music is you got to have something to say.
Absolutely,
and he's got so much to say. And he sounds great. I love.
There's one of those. One of the Stoics, I think it was Seneca, said that to be an artist, you have to have earned a perspective. So, what part of what I love about your veterans project, all of them, honestly, right, is that they're all the subjects. Are all people who have suffered through
some very serious perspective.
yeah, they've it's one hell of a way to have earned a perspective, had something to say, some wisdom,
Yeah, you get guys like Chris Bickle. Chris flew down from Baltimore, right? Stayed with me for a week.
Listen to Power Metal, by the way.
In this camp, yeah. I mean, Chris has a
dude.
20+ year career in Special Forces, right? And now he's looking to shift completely into music, right? He's at Berkeley School of Music.
So that's
right now.
more what you're doing with bringing the veterans in, is trying to give them a segue, for lack of a better term. These guys who really want to do it. Is that what's going on, or is it?
I think it's kind of a mix. Yeah, because to me, it's a mix. Because one, I mean, like as songwriters, especially when we write songs all the time, right? I mean, I'm writing songs. It's kind of my job in a sense to write songs all the time, but. So as songwriters, what we're constantly looking for is we're looking for like something unique, like a story to tell. Yeah. Something, even if we're writing a similar topic that we've said before, what's an angle on it that's different? Why am I going to write this song today instead of just replay a song I wrote 10 years ago?
Damn good point.
And to me, at this point in my career, I don't see much value in just writing another song to write another song. To me, I think every song I write, every additional song that I write, especially if I'm going to produce it and put 40, 50 hours into the track before it's, all said and done, mix, master, everything, or however many hours I put into it, it's got to be something I haven't done before. There's got to be something new. It's going to be something fresh. So on the songwriting side, I mean, it's not really like a charity thing in a sense, because I love working with this community. I love working with people who have a very specific life experience that I can learn from, talk to, and that inspires me differently when I'm writing a song with them, right?
Yeah, there was nothing about this that felt, as someone who was involved in it, that felt like it was charity.
Yeah.
That was not.
I think
these are legitimate people. These are people with shit to say, who are serious about making art.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what I felt about some of these Syrian refugees, man. Sosta could sing me and most people that I know under the table, right? And she's this like 20-something-year-old Syrian woman who, is teaching school for little kids because she just has no opportunities with music. Now she ended up going on like the Kurdish version in Northern Iraq and Kurdistan, right? She went on like the Kurdish version of American Idol.
No shit.
And she crushed it, right?
Hell
so
yeah.
now she's starting to really take off. It was cool when I was in Beirut. I had some meetings with the United Nations, with the UNHCR, and they were interested in what we're doing. So they sent a crew down. They did like a little
what's that?
UNHCR. It's the section of the United Nations that deals specifically with refugees.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And so they came in and they did a story. They kind of like filmed me working with Sosta for a day, did an interview with her and everything like that. But man, like she's kind of launched, and now she actually has kind of the basis for a career. And I mean, I might have been just a tiny little piece of that. I think she was going to get where she's going anyways because she's so good. But to me, a lot of like with these projects, what's exciting to me about it is it's like they offer me something that's really unique. Right. And hopefully I get to offer them something. It's like, hey, let's come and make a record.
What's that called, Jay? What's that called?
Are you looking for an S word? What are you looking for?
If you want,
synergy? Is that what you're looking for?
I was going to say a beneficial relationship.
A beneficial relationship.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That's the way. I mean, you could call it business or not. I mean, I would consider that an enlightened form of business. I think that's the way business should work. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought about doing a 501c3 for these international projects, right? And actually it'd be really nice if I did, because then I could get funding for them, right? But I decided not to because, I mean, once you form a 501c3, you have all sorts of rules and regulations on what you can and can't do with your projects and your money. I was like, well, let me just keep this as a business. And if I lose a bunch of money doing it, at least I can make the project I want to make. I can lose money on my own terms.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like you made a decision. Yep. And this scary thing called capitalism didn't like make you have to make money.
Yeah.
Oppressed into making money.
Yeah.
Oppressed into providing value.
Yeah. Oppressed into providing value. That was a clip from the Awful Music Podcast. You can find the entire episode at the link in the description, and you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.